you not only ushered Davidson basketball into the Atlantic 10 Conference, but you've also built the program as one of the best in the conference since joining. How important from a program perspective has the Atlantic 10 been to Davidson basketball, and what has been the key to success in which Davidson has had?
Well, the Atlantic 10 has been a national stage for us. We were honored to get the invite from Bernadette McGlade. We think it's one of the top conferences in the country, despite the fact that it does not have football. I'm convinced that the conference at top to bottom can compete with any of the top teams in the country on a consistent basis. Outstanding coaches, superb players, extraordinary commitments from the conference office and the various campuses. And Bernadette McGlade sets the tone for everybody. She's on a journey to make this conference the best it can become. And she's tough, she's competitive, and she really has an understanding of details. And I think her leadership has been a big part of the time I've been in the conference, and I am just so grateful that her leadership has had such an imprint upon me.
Yeah. And, obviously you had success, and Davidson had this, success before joining the Atlantic 10. But, was there any transition for you, or, was it just maybe, more of a help in terms of recruiting, having the Atlantic 10, you guys playing in that conference? But, Loyola, for instance, Loyola obviously is joining this year. Was there any transition, or what was that transitional period for you, as a coach?
Fortunately, the continuity of my presence here, being here for as long as I have, it allowed there to be fluidity as we've gone from year to year to year. So styles and rosters and staffs remain pretty well intact. Now, you have to understand, when I started here at Davidson in 1989, we were independent. We then, after 1 year, moved to the Big South Conference. We then, after 2 more years, moved to the Southern Conference. And then after, I guess, maybe 20-plus years more, we moved to the A-10. So we had experience in making that kind of transition. And I think that was critical.
Yeah. And, kind of moving on to obviously this past week, and, I know this may be personal, so by all means share only what you would like, but, what went into the timing, of your decision, and for how long have you been kind of mulling this decision to retire after such a, incredible coaching career?
Well, I evaluate every year from top to bottom, from A to Z, every nook, every cranny, in the pursuit of excellence in trying to make this program the best it can become. Oftentimes, I find a lot of dissatisfaction with what I did. Our players' faults are my failures, and I always address them. But I think I'm smart enough to understand that to address them in the immediacy of the season sometimes colors it in too dramatic of a way. You need to step aside, step back, take a thorough analysis of what just transpired, about what the next step is, and then make a decision as to how we're going to go forward. And it became very clear, very apparent to me that the job could be done better by Matt McKillop. And I took the job at 39. That's when he has taken the job. That's coincidental more than anything. But I did not have the breadth of experience that he had, nor did I grow up with Davidson on my heart as he did, both as a young boy growing up in his community, as well as a player competing, and then a 13-year, 14-year assistant coach. So he had a terrific resume, and I think he's a perfect fit for what we need to move our culture forward. And I just felt that he's better than me doing it. So why not step out of the starting lineup Why not take a different seat in the arena and let the best guys run the show? And that's who it is.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I would, people would be hard pressed to find more than a few coaches other than yourself, who have had the success and the longevity in their coaching career. Beyond the love, for the game and your players, how were you able to bring continued energy and kind of purpose and desire each year? And that's something that people try to find in every profession.
Well, I was able to move beyond my inadequacies because Davidson allowed me to do that. And because I had such superb assistant coaches, such terrific players who wanted to be coached and were tough enough to work as hard as they could to make themselves better. I also had a family that you can't value how vital and significant they have been to my journey in terms of a voice of support, a voice of encouragement, a voice of inspiration, a consoling word, an understanding of what it's like to be a coach at a very competitive level. That's not easy for wives and children to sacrifice their dad to an altar of passion for someone else's sons.
Yeah.
For the quest to be a great basketball team. So they shared time and they shared a tremendous, I guess you might say, love of theirs to allow me to be the coach for as long as I've been the coach here.
Yeah. No, I know. It's always, it's amazing. Anyone, you have the success, obviously, like you had, you need a family behind you, obviously, to support that, through the years.
What was really fascinating is that my family is even more intact now than it was when we started 33 years ago. Usually, the pressures, temptations, the demons of this profession sometimes tear apart the fiber of the family. And because of the incredible family I have, it's tied those bonds even tighter.
Yeah. Significant would be an understatement, I think, in describing, obviously, this past week at Davidson. Your decision to retire, the hiring, of your son, the announcement to retire Steph Curry's jersey after he won another title. Have you had an opportunity yet to kind of sit back and just take this this past week in at all?
Well, let's be very clear. I'm not retired. I'll be coaching in some capacity, whether it's coaching as a husband, coaching as a father, coaching as a grandfather, coaching as a teammate, coaching as a leader in this community. So I'm stepping away from the bench. There's no doubt about that. I'm not going to be at practice. There's no doubt about that. But I will be actively engaged in trying to help people in whatever capacity I serve from here on in. And that's one of the things I learned as I went through this journey of coaching. It's that each day you get an opportunity to help people. And I regret and lament the fact that I was all about toughness when I first began. And I did not understand tenderness. I did not understand how to care for people, how to help people. I thought I did, but I didn't understand it. And these years have taught me that you must grow tender without losing your toughness, and what a lesson it's taught me.
Yeah, no, definitely. I will, if I can, just two more questions. One outside of, Davidson, obviously, I cover the Atlantic 10. With Loyola Chicago joining the conference this year, Dayton and getting a lot of national attention early on in top 25. You have the recent hires of Frank Martin at UMass, Archie Miller at URI. Do you have kind of like a broad analysis or just kind of thoughts on where the conference is as you step aside, but just seeing where this conference is as such a great basketball conference?
Well, I don't look at the future. I look at the present, and I look at the tradition and history of the past. So I can't even comment on who's in the top 25 and who's not in the top 25. I have no idea who that might be. But I can tell you this. This conference has some magnificent coaches and has added some magnificent coaches. It's got some campuses, some programs, some arenas that rival the best in the country. It has left me with such a competitive satisfaction from being able to be part of this conference, and the weekly and the daily experience of traveling to these venues and playing against these coaches and creating game plans to try to be competitive. So I think this conference is in a great position right now. I thought we came off a wonderful year, and we're ever so close to having more than just a couple of bids. I think more than a couple of bids is well within reach of the teams in this conference.
Definitely. No, I agree wholeheartedly. And last question, objectively, do you think Davidson is heading in the right direction with their new head coach?
There's no question in my mind that as I've watched these last 72 hours unfold, to see the way Matt has tightened his sneakers, rolled up his sleeves, and tightened his belt, and the way he's embraced it. And he's had a couple of months in which he's tuned himself into what he has to do. I've had countless conversations with him over the last 20 years about what it takes to be a leader, what it takes to be a coach. So he's certainly gone through a rigorous orientation to what might be necessary as he takes our program forward. And he is very ready. He will clearly be challenged because of his youth and inexperience, but I feel confident that he's a very quick learner, and he has a tremendous passion for the current roster, and they have an equal respect and admiration for him. I've seen some of the workouts in the last 72 hours, the attention to detail that he is taking, the attention to detail that they are responding with. And plus, he's got a wonderful, wonderful group of assistant coaches who are fully engaged and fully supportive of him. So I think it's going very much so in the right direction.
Definitely. Well, we're excited, full disclosure, I'm originally, I'm a Rhode Island guy, but I love the Atlantic 10, and, having Davidson join the conference and the success that obviously you brought to the conference and Davidson, I'm looking forward to that next chapter. And I know for you, my dad, he's the same way, he had retired, but he said he retired from his job.'s still working. And for a basketball reference, he always said, I'm entering my next quarter in life. And, I wish you nothing but the best and fulfillment in that next quarter. But I appreciate what you've done for the Atlantic 10 and for college basketball in general.
Well, I have a special kinship with Rhode Island. Philip Yorn's been a great friend of mine since before he came to Rhode Island. And a number of your fans have become friends of mine, Tim Gray and Mike Glenman. So I clearly know Rhode Island very well and have the greatest admiration and respect for the program that they have.